Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening, everyone. I am the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme. I am the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts, and I return to you once more as the unshackled, unbound, and unrestricted voice of the vasectomites. And today I wanted to talk about losers. And every once in a while, I mention in passing something about the losers, the loser spirit, and the loser mentality. But I never really get into it, into any detail. And today, I wanted to give the losers of the world their platform, their moment in time, and quite frankly, a piece of my mind. Now, I've always alluded that real losers are very dangerous people. And if you look at the image of the gentleman on the screen today, I'm not sure how sound it is to mention his name or his circumstances, his tragic, unnecessary, uncalled for, very sad, very disturbing, turn of events. And I don't really know a lot about this person or the circumstances. I didn't watch any videos. I didn't get any media take. I didn't watch any reviews. So I'm giving my honest opinion on the situation. Just based on the fact that I know the situation and I'm starting to notice a pattern here. And I'm going to discuss this pattern with a fair bit of detail. Believe it or not, I have a fair bit of history with losers. And I think I have some small understanding about the inner workings of a loser. Now, not deep, intimate knowledge of being a loser, but I understand to some extent, having observed these losers. I do not associate myself with losers. And I think as the days and weeks go by, you will start to understand and see why. I am a naturally persistent person. You know this because I'll say the same thing every day on every video. I may just make one video saying the same thing over and over in different ways. And that thing is to freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. Go freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. But back to the losers, right? That's a winning move. Freezing your sperm, getting a vasectomy, that's the winning move. But let's talk about these losers. Let's give these losers their moment in time. And I'm not going to be aggressive. It's something that I find that when I do become aggressive or have become aggressive, I don't really get my point across very well. Yes, I'm still articulate. Yes, I can still think as I do normally. But I find that the aggression, if done unnecessarily, can steal away from the point. So I'm going to be trying to be very level-headed under these circumstances, despite the tragic nature of the circumstances. You see, you have to understand that most losers, in fact, most people, don't actually think and they don't actually believe down to their core. They don't believe that they are losers. These people think they are winners. And some of them, they might win some things, right? So they might achieve something. And I think about the celebrity type, right? Now, I don't have a lot of experience with the celebrity type, and the experience that I do have has been with mediocre celebrities, people who were very famous in either a small place or a small town or a small country, very famous in that country, but then you put their accomplishment in the light of day and you analyze it for what it really is. And what you find at the end of it is debt, financial losses, a product that, quite frankly, isn't selling, isn't performing, isn't effective. And what they will do is they will encounter another person who may have a similar product. So say for instance, they're trying to sell an album and the album is tanking, but they are famous because of the industry that they're in. Whereas you might write a book that doesn't generate you much fame in terms of that particular circle or that particular type of fame. But your book is killing it, right? Now, this person, right? And I'm not saying that I've written books or anything like that. I'm not telling you anything about myself. But I have created a product which, quite frankly, has a very specific demand. And upon encountering one such person, he then started to compare his statistics, or rather his fame, against my statistics, and my statistics crushed him. Then he started to compare his life experience, telling me how, oh, he had a trip one time to Paris. This man had the audacity to tell me that he went to Europe one time. One time. And then I started to pull out my passports. Not passport, passports. When I tell you that I have more passports than I have identity documents and driver's licenses combined. When you look at all my driver's licenses from when I'm 18 years old all the way through my life, and you have to replace these things every 5 years or every couple of years, right? I have more passports full of stamps than I have driver's licenses. And I mean, the lifespan of the ancient one is 100 years. So I'm not a spring chicken. And I just pulled out one passport full of stamps, another passport full of stamps, another passport full of stamps. There was like the whole table, well, not the whole table, a large section of the table was just passports, right? We didn't stack them up on top of each other, we laid them all flat. The anger in that man's face upon recognizing his own failures, right? It was as if reality had finally dawned on him, that all he had done was sing mediocre music in nightclubs and taverns and bars. He hadn't actually been anywhere. And when he did go somewhere, man, he went once. He went once to some meaningful place. I'm not going to take that away from him. It's a life experience. But he went one time and couldn't wait to tell everyone about it. And then he made the mistake of telling me. And I had to address this issue because I'm a competitive person and I'm not a goddamn loser. Right? I'm not. There's a reason my face is not on the internet. Right? My face is nowhere on the internet, not on Instagram, not on Facebook, not on TikTok, not on nothing. Because as soon as I show my face, I have to show you my life experience. And that has always proven to be a problem. It has always been a problem, right? And it's not just a question of what I've done, it's when I've done it. People can't stand that. People can't stand. That's why I don't give too many details. That's why I cannot give too many details. And I know there's somebody out there who's going to say to me, prove it. I accept your challenge. I really accept your challenge. First, I want to know how many passports you have, just to your name right now, right? Because if you don't have 5 full passports, you're not doing the thing. You need a minimum of 5 full passport, 100 pages. I'm not doing that 50-page nonsense, that half a passport. I want a 100-page passport with a 10-year limit, right? Not a 5-year limit, not an 18-month limit. 100 pages, 10-year limit, all full. You don't have that, you don't have my life experience. We are not talking the same language. You know what I mean? When you've spent years in a country where you don't speak the language, then we can talk. Then we can talk. Right? But don't put me in a position where I'm gonna have to compete, because I love to compete. I love to compete. You feel that emphasis in the word love? It's passionate. It's passionate. And you have to understand, there are successful people in this world who are known for success, who themselves believe that they are successful until the moment they encounter a loser and face the depth of their failures. That they cannot tolerate. They think they are special, they are unique, they are full of potential. They believe that despite however many passports you can put in front of them, right? Despite the evidence and the lack of evidence on their side, that they are winners. Or at the very least, they have the capacity for victory and success, which of course they do not. For most of their lives, people would be punished for even implying that a person is a loser. Those people would be punished by being fired. So these are either doctors or teachers, social workers, that kind of thing, that work with those kinds of people that work with children and have to encourage a child to grow up the right way with the right mentality, teaching this kid that he's going to become successful, all the way until he's 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And then he's 22, 23, nothing. Not attending no university, not doing nothing. 24, 25, 30 years old, you still haven't accomplished nothing. Nothing. But for some reason, you still believe in yourself. You still believe in yourself because everyone that told you that you were going to amount to something would have been punished if they didn't tell you this. If people had told you what I'm telling you right now, behind the veil of secrecy and the dark of night and the practice of the deceptive arts, if they had told you to your face that in fact you are not as good as you think you are, they would have been punished. Your parents would have been sent to jail. Your teachers would have been fired. Social workers would have either been fired or their careers would have been over. But you have to understand, everyone that convinced you that you are a winner, that you have potential, that you have capacity, if they didn't tell you this, if they told you anything other than this, you must understand they would have faced severe punishment. Not just in terms of financially, but it would have probably ruined their lives. Any part of society that tells you that you are in fact what you are, which is a loser, right, would either be considered uncouth, unkind, or just generally ill-mannered. So what do? They lie. They lie to you your entire life. And the lies that they tell are dangerous, right? But not nearly as dangerous as telling you the truth, right? For the truth, telling a young person, telling a weak person, telling a child that they are in fact not good enough. They are not capable. They don't have the capacity or the potential or the talent or the talent for success. They are in fact a loser. You create an instant enemy for life in that child. A child who's going to grow up and be big and be strong and be capable and then be very, very angry, right? Because that person now has a reason for losing other than the fact that they are in fact a loser. So not only were they not ever going to achieve success, they now have a reason behind it, right? And then someone to associate that reason with. In other words, they can place blame on that person. They will blame you and say things like, I'm a loser because either you didn't believe in me or you didn't believe in my dreams. As if that's my job. As if it is my job to believe in you and your potential and your dreams and your outcome. As if I don't have my own dreams, my own goals, my own outcomes. I must now take time out of my life to look after what your wishes that everybody knows aren't gonna come true anyway. Just think about that. Or they'll blame you for breaking their already weak confidence and lowering their self-esteem. Something that doesn't make any sense. You ever heard a person say, oh, I was doing my best and somebody told me I suck and it broke my confidence and my desire and my will to try again? You mean the fact that you sucked, that didn't break your will? The fact that you tried to do a dance routine and it looked ridiculous. The fact that when you sing, it's kind of okay compared to other people. The fact that you think you're living the celebrity life, you're living the dream, but there are people who have been living that bachelor life from day one and they did what you are trying to do in your 30s and 40s. They did that in their 20s. Now you are going to come out here and say that they lowered your self-esteem, that they broke your confidence. No. You looked at yourself based on the challenge in front of you, based on the challenges, based on the talent that these people have, their capacity, their skill, and their training. And you realize that you weren't going to make it, but you didn't say it. You were going to go in there with self belief and stand on your plan until somebody pointed out the obvious, until somebody told you what everyone could see is that you were going to lose. And then you lost, right? And then instead of saying, you know what, man, this challenge was just far better than I thought. The best man won. I got thrashed. What you did was you didn't face the challenge in front of you because that guy already demolished you. You went and spoke to the guy who told you the obvious thing. And now you are upset that the obvious is easy for everyone to see. You see, most losers spend their whole life completely unaware and completely oblivious as to how bad they really are or how untalented and incompetent they truly are until they encounter an actual winner. It is the contrast, it is the comparison between that person's success and your, let me put it to you like this, it's the contrast between having 15 full passports and you only having one passport with one stamp in it. That's the glaring difference. And that difference is painful. That difference is when things get really bad. You know, think of someone like who is the best singer in their family or in their school or in their social club. And they're always so confident in their raw, untrained talent. And then they feel completely blindsided, right, by the false appraisals that they get from other untalented people. Then what happens? Then the inevitable happens, right? You test your talents, you keep going, and then you rub it into people's faces because you think you're that good. And then one day, they encounter a more capable singer with more training, more talent, a better look, a deeper voice with a wider range and a higher pitch. Then, then the loser comes out. Then that loser that was hiding inside comes out. And then when the loser comes out, and the loser mentality and loser behavior displays itself, it never goes back in. Have you ever noticed that? Once you expose someone as a loser, they never improve themselves. They never compete. They never go out of their way to progress to a higher level and update their skills, update their synapses daily as we do here on the platform. Right? Instead, what happens is they start with the excuses. Someone didn't believe in them. Someone said something or didn't say something, right? Someone did something or didn't do something. And this part right here, this part right here is the establishing, determining characteristic of a loser. Right? It's always that someone didn't do something for them. It's always like they'll say somebody said this and somebody said that, but then somewhere in there, they'll come to a point where somebody didn't do something for them. And this is the key and crucial part of being a loser: dependency. which is something that bachelors and vasectomites cannot be. Depending on other people is completely out of the question. Yeah, completely out of the question. There's no situation where you're going to benefit from depending on other people. I wanted to give an example of a moment where I depended on someone and they either came late or they came early or didn't come at all. I have so many situations where I almost missed a flight because some guy volunteered to drive me to the airport, and then I had an inclination to call him like 3 hours before I was supposed to go, and the guy just didn't pick up his phone. He just didn't pick up his phone. You know, I mean, I must have called him. Like, it's one thing if you're like busy or whatever, but you couldn't even text or nothing. You know, like, I have so many examples of this. Just depending on people is a problem, right? Dependency requires always someone to intervene or act on your behalf in order for you to succeed. And without that participation, failure is guaranteed. And should the inevitable and predictable failure occur, then the loser is someone to blame, right? There are so many ways that losers will find to blame or include others in the blame for their own demise. Regardless of the fact that, remember, they could have just tried again. You know, it's like one thing, you apply for a job, you don't get the job because you couldn't make it to the interview or something. There's absolutely no reason you couldn't pick up the phone and reschedule that interview. Right? There's absolutely no reason you couldn't be tested on a different day. Like, if for example you miss an important test because you couldn't get it right. Lecturers at university accommodate that kind of thing. Most universities will have a test and then they'll have a makeup test for people who missed the test, for people who couldn't come to the test, for people who were sick, for people who had problems, whatever the reason. There's no reason why you couldn't have gone back and made up that test. If you think about it, right? There's always a way that you could have redeemed themselves, that losers can redeem themselves, but they never take the redemption. They just stick with the blame. Somebody will tell you, oh, I wanted to be a superstar. And you'll ask them why, and they'll give you a million reasons. And you think to yourself, you know, you could go right now and record that album that you've been dreaming about. You don't have to even do a full 2015 track album. You can do 6 tracks and put it out anyway. They won't do that. They won't do that. Right? What they'll do is just find another person to blame. So what they'll do is go from blaming, their teachers, their parents, to then blaming their children. Oh, I couldn't do it because my parents couldn't help me, but I can't do it now because I have kids. You know what? You just can't do it. You just cannot do it. Under any circumstances, whether your parents were paying or whether you're a parent that's paying, you just don't have what it takes. Right? And these people, they won't admit that they don't have what it takes. Right? So what do they do? What do they do? Right? When they decide to blame you, they become belligerent, they become hateful, and they become dangerous. And then they become violent. Think of every assassination that you've ever known about rather. From Abraham Lincoln to John F. Kennedy to the attempted assassination of President Donald Trump, current President of the United States, 2026, as well as the recently deceased Charlie Kirk. While I don't know very much about any of these people, and quite frankly, I'm not going to look them up or what they've done. I do know one thing about them, that they were all considered, by and large, winners, and they were considered successful in their area, in their industry, and in their field, right? They were considered extremely, extremely successful. And they were all attacked and eliminated by a complete loser. A person who, other than having committed this act, has done nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing significant, identifiable, or even important with their lives, other than having committed a tragic and extreme failure. Another one. You cannot anticipate the depth of these people's failures and how far they will go to extend their failure. You have to understand that they understand that they cannot achieve. Once their mediocrity has been exposed, and I'm thinking about the entertainer who I exposed, right? Because like one of his thing was saying, "Oh, I'm all the way in Paris. I'm living lavish." I don't know what these rappers will say and do, but something to that effect. Having taken away this thing of his to say, "Well, I traveled overseas and I lived this type of style," having only done it one time, never even been to Asia, right? Only been to one place one time. Exposing this in him, and the fact that he knows that he's never going to Paris again. It's one thing to have gone, come back, and you're going again. At the time that I was speaking to him, what I wanted to do was pull out the plane ticket that I had for my next destination. So it wasn't just that I'd been to more places, I was growing, right? And I wanted to hit him with that, but I didn't. The point had already been made. And then I had an online platform, like what many people have. It was literally one country after another country after another country after another country. And it's just me getting older and older and older. And when you scroll all the way back to the bottom, what you find is a man that looks like a boy. I'm old enough to be a grown man, a professional, but I'm so thin, I'm so skinny, I'm so scrawny, I look like a boy sitting under an umbrella in Bali. Yeah, that's in Indonesia, in case you're wondering. It's for this reason. It's for this reason why I hide my face. And anonymity has been my ally. I am not interested in meeting my demise at the hands of a meaningless competitor, or even worse, some anonymous loser in a crowd who, after taking my life, has nothing better to do than to scroll on social media. This person is going to take my life and isn't even going to go overseas to hide. You don't even have the passport. You don't even have like the depth of plan. Do you know how they do it in the movies? Oh, we're gonna steal $100 million and then we're gonna move to a non-extradition country, change our names, blah blah blah. You know how movie screens are. You don't even have the escape plan. You're not even going to some exotic island to live out the remainder of your days after accomplishing this great feat, taking out a tremendous loser. I mean, a tremendous winner, a victorious champion, a man known throughout history who will now be remembered as a martyr. No, no, you're not doing anything great like that. What are you doing? You're going home to sit on your phone and scroll on social media. All the while, I'm gone. All the while, I'm gone for good. What are you doing? You're watching TikTok dances and you're vaping in your childhood bedroom, gratifying yourself to online victims and only plans models. Yeah, I said only plans. Um, you know, you know how it goes. No way, man. I'm not accepting that. There's no way I'm risking my life. I've already taken the chance to put myself up against, and I'm a nobody. You have to understand, I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody. I'm just a kid, well, was a kid who made a specific calculation, and my calculation was based only on the numbers, and I proved myself right. I chose a career that had no fame, none whatsoever, and only because the numbers made sense. No one has any idea what I do at work. I mean, no one has any idea at work, and nobody cares. All they care about at work is that I'm productive and I do what I'm doing, and outside of work, all they care about is that I got the money to spend. That's it. This was my only calculation that I made. Fame, fortune, being seen, and being liked was never part of my plan. And there's no way I'm going to undo that plan now. Sacrifice my anonymity so that some guy who only has t-shirts that are 4 or 5 years old, when a t-shirt is so worn out that the collar hangs down to your chest and it's not a v-neck. It used to be round and you washed it and worn it so many times that the black is now gray and the collar is down here, right? Like the arms, the sleeves of the shirt, they don't even go around your arms anymore. It's just like a piece of cloth hanging off your body. A man dressed like that is going to be scrolling TikTok while I'm trying to survive for my life. I'm not taking those chances. I'm not taking no chance at all. A winner, a real winner, knows how to choose the correct strategy to face the opponent that he is coming up against. You base your strategy based on the opponent that you're facing. Your opponent hides in the shadows, devises diabolical schemes, and wants to end your existence, your message, and simply remove your success just because it makes his success look inconsequential. You make people look and feel small. Your success makes people look and feel small. It makes them look small to people that they want to look big to. It makes people disrespect them. Right? So if you're gonna say, well, I'm starting a channel and I'm gonna kill it, and people are gonna say, well, the ancient ones already done that. Or I'm gonna talk about something new, and people are gonna say, well, what is it? What is the new thing that you're gonna talk about? Because the ancient one has got the new. He's got the sperm cryopreservation. He's got the vasectomy. He's got the science fiction. Things that were science fiction, the ancient ones brought them to reality. Right? The kind of stuff in the movies. So what is the new thing that you're bringing? Because eventually people are going to start comparing this philosophy, freezing your sperm, um, and getting that vasectomy, freezing your sperm and getting that vasectomy, and that message is gonna demolish. I mean, demolish. This philosophy is going to demolish all others. I know it, and you know it. It is powerful, it is true, it is provable, it is long lasting, and really, you're going to be hard pressed of finding another better solution than freezing your sperm and getting a vasectomy. And eventually, somebody's going to hear it, and they're going to compare their philosophy with this one, and it's going to be bad. And when it does happen, I don't want to be anywhere near that. I don't want to be anywhere near anybody who talked about money, muscles, and mental health. When I start telling them that your money, your muscles, and your mental health mean nothing when compared to freezing your sperm and getting a vasectomy. Not only that, it's cheap. That vasectomy is cheap. That freezing your sperm is cheap. So you'll be coming here with $1 billion, and I will tell you that I got a procedure that costs $1,550. And for that reason, I could care less about your $1 billion. I could care less unless you're going to take that $1 billion and get 100 million men their vasectomies. Other than that, you're just going to lose that money to a counterpart. They're going to take it all in the divorce. They're going to take it all in the alimony. They're going to take it all in the child support. And the rest is going to lawyers. So where's the money now? Where's the money now? When what you should have done is use that $1 billion to freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. You see how bad it's going to get? I've already put a vasectomy up against $1 billion. And I win. And I win. And now you think the billionaires are going to tolerate that? Ain't nobody with nothing, just a good plan and a decent idea coming back and undermining their entire success? You think anybody's going to tolerate that? Absolutely not. And I don't want to be the person standing under that spotlight, being blinded by the glare of my own hype and my own possibility. Because under that spotlight, you can't tell if the spark that you're seeing is the light of the spotlight shifting, is the light of the spotlight reflecting on something, is the light of the spotlight reflecting off your diamonds and your jewels, or if it's something more ominous or more dangerous. Because I'm telling you the message that I have here is true, it's real, and it works, and it will stand up. It has stood up against female birth control. A vasectomy is more effective than female birth control, than a condom in preventing pregnancy. And many people are going to be coming out there telling you how they have game, how they have skills, how they have this and that. And in truth, they don't really have nothing. They don't really have nothing. Everything that they offer you, skills, knowledge, wisdom, resources, money, I would happily experience in and out of the dark dimension. I would happily take that and put it up against a vasectomy. And I'll say, well, I'll take your experience in marriage, in child support, in divorce, in dating, in pay for play, and put it up against freezing your sperm and getting a vasectomy, and I'll demolish all of that. And all the people that have preached and taught and stood by that, they're eventually going to come to this place. They're going to hear this, because I'm going to be putting it out every day anyway for as far as I can. And as soon as they hear it, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem because the money, the muscles, and the mental health is not going to stand up against it. Sun Tzu says, you can only be sure of your attacks if you attack places that are unguarded. And you can only be certain of your defenses if you defend places that cannot be attacked. You can only be sure of safe travel if you go places where the enemy is not. This is the only way for us to stay safe. Stay away from the enemy so they cannot beat you. Stay away from these losers so they cannot beat you. Because it's only by allowing them access to you. As we can see with these men who either had an attempted assassination from a loser or were assassinated by a loser. They weren't in secure places. They were out in the open. And I'm not going to say that they should have known better. I'm here to tell you that you should know better. Because if you watch this video and you don't think these losers are dangerous, and you cannot associate these past patterns with loser behavior, loser mentality, then you're deluding yourself. It's dangerous in this world. It is not a joke. And you're going to come out with a very serious and very important message and not take the precautions to protect yourself. I think that's a strategic mistake. And I think if you're a winner, a real winner, you'll come up with the right strategy that lets your message live on and protects you. Because these losers are out here and they are not going to stop. And they think they're doing great. They think they're doing great, and they'll believe that they're doing great until the day they see you. And on that day, everything about their lives will change, and everything about your life will change too. Let's look at today's article, The Psychology of Winning 10 Principles to Mastering the Winner's Mindset. This article is by Dr. Dennis Waitley. I thought for a moment it was Whitley, but after careful consideration and analysis, I can see it's Dr. Dennis Waitley. This was published the 11th rather of October 2023. His website, or the website where this came from, is yourstory.com. And of course, here's the link to the article that we are going to read together. But if you feel like reading it yourself, you're more than welcome to visit their website. I'm sure they will appreciate the engagement and the interaction. It begins. Embark on a journey of self-discovery and success with the psychology of winning. Learn about the 10 crucial qualities that define winners and how to incorporate these powerful traits into your life to attain personal and professional success. Let's continue. The Psychology of Winning, 10 Qualities of a Total Winner by Dr. Dennis Waitley provides readers with valuable insight into the mindset and behaviors that underpin winning in life. I'm starting to feel like I could have skipped this. However, we continue. The book lays out 10 essential qualities that, when cultivated, can transform ordinary individuals into high achievers. One, positive self-expectation. Believing in oneself is the corner of a winning attitude. Waitley explains that harboring positive expectations fuels motivation, bolsters self-esteem, and enhances one's ability to navigate life's challenges with resilience and optimism. For a moment, I thought that this is a duplication. Yes, it is. It is. I just realized that this was a duplication, right? So that was the introduction, and number one is a duplication. I took it directly from the article itself before I formatted it, so I didn't make the duplication. Let me read number one once again. Positive self-expectation. Believing in oneself is the cornerstone of winning attitude. Waitley explains that harboring positive expectations fuels motivation, bolsters self-esteem, and enhances one's ability to navigate life's challenges with resilience and optimism. I think I did it better the second time. One thing that I wanted to mention is that the opposite can also be true for losers, in terms of a loser can see himself and expect himself to achieve great things, right? So while winners may have the same characteristics, losers may have the same self-belief. The difference is winners get the results and losers get excuses, right? They either accept the loss gracefully or they get excuses. But both people believe in themselves. The celebrity that I was talking about. Now, mind you, again, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a guy who was fortunate to land in the right career. So right, in fact, that I could travel all over the world. So much, in fact, that it's not worth showing off. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. Like the economic times, they don't lend themselves to this kind of, you know, blatant display of fortune. There are some colleagues who do the same job as me, right? Under the same circumstances, earn the same money, but live a completely different lifestyle, right? And it's all because they have expenses. This was something else that I didn't tell you about this rapper. Was he a rapper or was he an actor? I think he was a rapper turned actor, something like that. But again, in a small town, right? This guy had tremendous expenses. He had like three children by two women, and he was married and that kind of situation. So, it wasn't the fact that he could only go once, it was also the fact that he would never ever go to Paris again because of his own set of circumstances and his own doing. So the expenses that he's had, those were tying him down, along with the fact that his career was failing, and the only thing he had going for him was that a lot of people knew who he was, and he had to spend a lot of money to keep up the perception, right? And I was like, I don't need to spend any money on perception. I'm spending my money going to the Seychelles. The other characteristic that a winner has is positive self motivation. Now, this is true. Winners, again, are very self motivated, but it's easy when you are upholding standards, right? So, if you have a standard to uphold and you don't meet that standard, then you know you're failing, right? So, you don't really need to self motivate yourself, which can be dangerous in some cases. You tell yourself how good you really are, and then you come up against somebody that's got 15 passports and you get crushed. You will get crushed, right? Your stardom, your fame, it will get utterly destroyed by people who have more experience and more time and more money and no expenses. You know, like a lot of people that will preach a progressive lifestyle, a bachelor lifestyle, or the Bachelor 2.0, He Who Returns, you'll find that they still have a tremendous amount of expenses. So while they're telling themselves how good they are, how great they are, those bills are piling up. You know what I mean? So self motivation has to be associated with standards so that you can know what you're achieving, right? So and also you want to minimize these liabilities, man. Minimize your expenses and your costs. Just freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, so you don't have to deal with all this nonsense. Waitley elucidates that importance of internal drive as a propelling force towards success. Let me read that again. Waitley elucidates the importance of internal drive as a propelling force towards success. That sounds much better. Individuals who are intrinsically motivated are better positioned to set, pursue, and achieve their goals, being governed by an internal compass rather than an external reward. I think what he's saying here, in a different way to what I would say, is that you need to have your own internal standards so that should the circumstances, the situation, whatever happens around you changes, you can still remain productive and effective. You can still uphold your principles, your values, your standards, and your success, right? But if you're waiting for external validation, external reward, what you're going to find is on the day that you don't get it, then you don't feel successful. But if you have a target and you hit that target, if you have standards and you maintain those standards, then you know you're successful. Then you know you've done right. Number three is a positive self-image. Now, this is what losers lose within themselves, right? When that guy believed he was the success, mind you, he was the only one among his friends who had been abroad at that time. So he really rubbed it in his friends' faces what he had done. And when I had came in and demonstrated the truth of the reality that I'm practically living in airports, I crushed the self image, the positive self image that he had of himself. The thing that he went and told himself every morning, oh, I'm the man, I've been to Europe. I crushed that. I took that away from him. Now, in hindsight, maybe it wasn't such a good thing, but to be fair, he was trying to take that away from me. He was trying to show off. He was trying to amuse himself at my expense. He was trying to show to especially counterparts. There were women in that place. That was the thing. I didn't even mention it until he had mentioned it in a way where he was like, well, I'm like this and I'm like that, and what are you? And I said, I'm the ancient one. I'm the Bachelor Supreme. I am the master of the deceptive arts, the phantom menace, and I remain. I will remain. And I demonstrated and demonstrated and demonstrated and continued the demonstration. His self image was gone. But his problem was that he tried to take away my positive self image. And I'm a narcissist. I am a complete textbook narcissist. The last thing I will tolerate is somebody attacking my sense of self. No, 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 no. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. You don't bring your one little stamp, entry, exit, and say, oh, well, I'm accomplished. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Go get you some real euros and get a lot of those euros. Then we can talk. And put them in savings. I don't want to see nobody pull out a credit card. You go on holiday with me, you pull out a credit card, we have a problem. Because I am not paying interest on some scrambled eggs. No way, no way. You're gonna go on holiday and pay interest on scrambled eggs? I'm not dealing with that. Just pay cash, man. Take the euros out of your pocket and pay. It's just money, right? Right? Until you encounter the ancient one. And then you're like, well, I've got assets, I've got this, I've got that. I want to see your savings. I want to see your savings. Don't tell me about your investments. I want to see your savings. What does the number of money that you own? What is the number of the money that you own? What is that number? The money that belongs to you, that you own, not the money that you're paying off, the money that you have access to, the money that you use, no, the money that you own, that is your own private property, that the government cannot take, that the corporations cannot take. What is that number? The savings will tell us that number. A positive self image serves as a reflection of how individuals perceive and value themselves. Oh, that's so true. Waitley advocates for nurturing a healthy self image, which acts as a catalyst to engaging in constructive behaviors and building robust self esteem. Yes, this is so true, right? How you perceive and value yourself, right? This is what was removed from that individual when he soon identified himself as a loser, right? His positive self-esteem was removed because the way he's perceived himself and his value diminished. He quickly realized that what was the crowning achievement of his life was something that the ancient one was able to achieve practically as a child. Now, just let that sink in. You know what I mean? You're a grown man talking about the success that you know something that a child could do and practically did with his own money. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, that must have been crushing. And by the way, I was younger than this guy. So that I just added, like, one of the things that upset me was that he didn't treat me as a professional, which I was at the time. He treated me like some kid, and I wasn't tolerating that. I wasn't tolerating that. Absolutely not. And so I demonstrated. Of course, I never saw him again. And it wasn't because he didn't want to see me. It was because I just didn't want to take that risk. I didn't want to, having done that to him, I realized that he was building robust self-esteem, and I demolished it. And so it may have been quite foolish for me to meet him again, having done this and then realizing the potential danger that I may have put myself in. Right? I'm absolutely a runner. I'm not a fighter. I'm not sitting around gonna fight against people that got nothing to lose. You know what I mean? When I may still have another 80, or rather, let me say 20, 30, 25 years of jet skiing left, quad biking, kite surfing. I got 20 years left of this, 30 years maybe. You know, I'm not gonna waste it, wrestling in the mud with some guy whose robust self esteem has been crushed by a simple passport. Number four, positive self direction. Establishing clear objectives and delineating a roadmap to attain them is fundamental to success and failure. Positive self direction entails being proactive, taking initiative, and demonstrating an unwavering commitment to one's aspirations. What this means is that you cannot let things stand in your way. You know, I cannot tell you the number of challenges that I faced before I graduated at university in that final year, in those last 2 years. Those last 2 years were probably very difficult and very challenging. Probably the worst years of my life, now that I think about it, right? But I wasn't going to let anything get in my way. And it wasn't because I wasn't going to, I wanted to be successful. I had nothing else. I had nothing else, no plan B. I literally put all my eggs in the basket and almost lost the basket. And I was like, if I lose this basket, I have nothing else. Right? I have nothing else. No plan B. No. My only plan B is to go do something, make some money, come back, and then finish. That would have been my plan B. Right? And that plan B was terrible, and it would have failed. Right? So I had to go at it one time and get it, done. But you really cannot let things stand in your way. It's all about the result. If you want to be a winner, I'm telling you right now, it's got nothing to do with the process. Nobody cares how hard you work. Nobody cares how easy it was. No one cares, or how simple it is for you, just as long as you keep getting those results. You get the results, people will, keep investing in you. And the more they invest, the bigger the results. So you need to have a direction that you go in, and you cannot let anything, I mean anything, stand in the way of those results. It's all about results. Maintaining standards is about maintaining results. Nothing to do with, listen to me, forget the journey. Forget the journey. I'm going to use myself as an example, only because I don't want to talk about people I don't know. I'm going to tell you right now, the journey to getting a degree, right? I'm not going to talk about my professional life and my situation too much, because I don't want to expose myself and I don't need these problems. But the journey to getting the degree is inconsequential to getting the degree. There is no point in going through all of that and then not get the degree in the end. Do you know how much people suffer? I mean, financially, people starve to get that education, and then they stop because they just get too hungry and they go get something to eat. You need to get used to starving. If you want that success, you got to say, oh, okay, this is the starvation part of the process. Oh, okay, this is the sleep deprivation part of the process. That's all it is. But if you don't get those results, what's the point of staying up all night working if you don't get the results? What's the point of starving, having to choose between buying a textbook and going on a date? And then you buy the textbook anyway and lose the girl. You know what I mean? What's the point of doing all that if you still don't get the degree in the end? You need to get those results. You need to get those results. I don't care who you have to lie to get those results. Get the results, because otherwise the lie is not worth it. The sacrifice is not worth it. The hard work is not worth it. Why work so hard? Why stay up all night? Why starve yourself? Why sacrifice fun times and then not get the results? No. No, you can't do that. You got to get those results every single time. And losers, they sacrifice the result. They sacrifice the result for the journey. They'll say, oh, we had such a great time on the journey. The memories are worth it. The memories are not worth it. The memories are not worth it. Take it from a guy who's been everywhere around the world and taken all those selfies. If I had to choose between the memories and having that money back, I'd take that money back in a heartbeat. But the memories are good too. Very good. I had a great time, but I'd still take the money back. Positive self control. Losers have no self control. Exercising self control is paramount to maintaining focus and avoiding distractions. This is a fantastic list, by the way. If I was doing this list based on winners alone, I would agree with everything that he says. But I want to contrast between winners and losers, right? And how you have to understand that losers see themselves as winners. The people who executed those assassinations, they see themselves as successful. That is something that you have to understand with losers. Eventually, eventually their delusion becomes such that their failure becomes a success. The fact that they failed, they'll say something like, the fact that they failed and survived the failure is an indication of success and not a demonstration of ongoing failure. The fact that I failed, but I didn't give up in myself and I picked myself up and continued with failure, right? It's not like you failed, improved, went back, tried again, and got the goal. No, 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 no. You just continued with failure, right? This is the self control that I'm talking about. You missed an exam, but you know there's a makeup exam, but you don't do the makeup exam. You don't even go talk to your professor about it. I'll give you an example, right? I I once wrote an exam for a particular course. We were required to write two essays, right? It was like a 4 page essay or something. Yes, I've written 30 pages in a 3 hour exam. Like, I'm thoroughly tested. In a 3 hour exam, I swear to God, I have written 30 pages in 3 hours. Of course, it was all memorized, and I was just vomiting everything that I memorized, right? It was on. It was on. It was all or nothing. But this was my first year, right? My freshman year. And it was the second semester. So I was quite familiar with the layout of things. And I went into this exam and we were supposed to write two essays and answer for mid-range question. Mid-range question, 2 pages. 2 pages is a mid-range question, by the way. So full-on essay, I must have written 12 pages, 6 pages for one, 6 pages for others, for the other, and then about 2 pages for the answer questions. Like it was a lot of writing. That room was dead quiet. I think that the actually the exam was about 3.5 hours. Dead quiet. Dead quiet. Right? Almost 500 people in that room. I mean, dead quiet. 500 people in that hall. But I messed up. I wrote 3 essays instead, right? So I pretty much missed like 40% of the exam. Gone. And I knew there was no way I was going to miss 40% of an exam and still pass. I left that exam room immediately and walked straight to my lecturer's office. Right? This was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, exhausted, and I explained the situation to him, and I begged him. I said to him, "Is it possible for you to grade me on 3 essays instead of 2 essays and 2 or 3 long answer or short answer questions?" Right? He said, "Sure, no problem." Just like that. "Sure, no problem." And I was like, "Just like that?" He was like, "Yeah, just like that. Thank you for coming to speak to me." He wrote my name down, and I passed the exam. Obviously, I passed the exam. But the alternative that I was going to say to him was, I was going to say, let me take, the makeup exam. If I mess this one up, can I at least take the makeup exam to fix my mistake, right? And I'm sure he would have obliged me, right? And this is what I'm saying about self-control. You control the situation. If you go and explain the situation under the circumstances, like if I had went to my professor having written nothing, he would have ignored me. But because I'd done more than what was required and demonstrated a level of competence, he was willing to oblige me, right? This is what I mean by self-control, right? Self-control. Not letting other people make the decision. The foolish thing would have been to, wait till I get home, call my parents, and then talk to my parents. What should I do? Then my parents say, well, go speak to your lecturer the next day, which is something that I should have done anyway. Just for him to say, well, if you had come spoken to me before, blah, blah, blah. One of the reasons I think he allowed me to do that was because I came to him right at the end of the day and he didn't want a long discussion. He was like, okay, cool. He grabbed his keys and he walked right out. So he was on his way out anyway. And the last thing he wanted to do was sit down and have a 30-minute discussion about some student who messed up an exam. He was like, so this is the problem? Okay, it's not a big deal. I can take care of it. It was an internal issue, right? Exercising self control is paramount to maintaining focus and avoiding distractions. It's also key to being able to take the right action at the right time. And this is something that losers cannot do. It enables individuals to manage their impulses, emotions, and actions effectively. I like everything about this list, thereby facilitating sound decision making and fostering personal development. This sounds exactly like my story. You might think that that story has something to do with anything other than self control, but it doesn't. That moment, it was me facing myself and saying, you know what, I have to do what I have to do to get the result. I have to do what I have to do to get this degree. I have to do what I have to do. I have to do it. Me, not somebody else, not developing dependency like losers. No, you have to do it by yourself. Positive self discipline. Waitley highlights the imperative of self discipline as a mechanism for cultivating habits that are conducive to success. Through consistency, perseverance, and adherence to a disciplined regimen, I beg your pardon, individuals can incrementally move closer to their goals. I need to read a little bit slower. I'm always rushing through my reading because I don't want to sound like slow and cumbersome and weighted, but I really need to read a little bit slower to avoid mistakes. Self discipline is the key to everything, right? To be able to avoid things, to be able to plan things, to be able to organize things, to be able to organize yourself, you need to be able to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. You need to also know the people that you're trusting, are they trustworthy and they're not. I could go on forever with self discipline. I really just don't want to get started on it too much because I'll be going on all day long. But ultimately, if you cannot prevent yourself from indulging in things that you shouldn't indulge in, you're going to fail, especially if you're doing it at the wrong time. So it's one thing like if you go out partying on a Saturday night, right? But you know it's expensive, but you do it anyway. That's one thing. It's another to do it on a Tuesday night when you know it's expensive and you know you have work and you know you've got deadlines and you know you're going to be delayed and you know there are consequences. Whereas partying on Saturday, the only consequence is that you lose Sunday. But Monday, you'll be fine for work. Man, you need self discipline. There's so many examples of self discipline that I can give where people should have just said no. Just say no, even if, especially to yourself. You need to be able to say no to the things that you want to do. You need to be able to say no to jet skis, no to islands, no to partying, no to traveling, no to Dubai. Man, the day you can say no to Dubai, when you got that cash money and the credit card and the flight ticket ready, and you're like, no, no. And people will say, why? And you say, well, I got videos to make, I got an article to read. That's self discipline. And I know you're thinking you can make those videos in Dubai. I'm telling you, you're making a mistake. Dubai isn't going anywhere. Dubai isn't going anywhere. Make the video first, then go to Dubai. Because if you go to Dubai before you make that video, you're never going to make that video. I'm telling you the truth. You're gonna fly there, the time difference, the jet lag, the flight, the transitions. You're gonna think, well, I'll do it on the airplane, and those little serving trays are just too small to hold any device, any book, any material. And the only thing they can hold is barely a cup of tea, right? So if you go somewhere where you're not supposed to be, promising yourself that you'll come back and do it later, I promise you, you won't do it. I really promise you, you will not do it. Something also to mention about self discipline before we move on to positive self esteem is that a lot of losers are actually quite disciplined in the beginning. So they will, be very good at what they're doing, performing, talented, hardworking, and so forth. Like, think of like a sprinter who's very talented, right? Hardworking, training every day, and so forth. And then the moment will come where they meet a more talented person, right? And let's say they sprint and then somebody thrashes them by like 10 meters or something in a 200-meter dash, right? Somebody thrashes them by like 10, 15 meters, right? That's it. That's it for losers. They lose by that big a gap, they are done. They are not going to realize and say, well, you know what, I could make that up in a year or two. I could make that gap up in a year or two. No, 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 no. What they will do is they will lose heart and they will stop because they'll see, oh, this is the challenge, and they stopped. Just like that entertainer, right? I think he eventually traveled somewhere else, right? But it was like 7 years later. It was 7 years later, and they put him all over a magazine in that country. Or such and such went to, I don't know where he went to, Nigeria. And then it was all over, his particular genre of entertainment news. And I was like, at what cost, man? Like, it must have been so expensive to go overseas, you know. But after meeting me, a decade went by before the desire to travel again hit him. And then he went somewhere mediocre. He didn't even hit Paris again. I would have just hit Paris twice and tell people that Paris is my spot, but he just went somewhere mediocre. A positive self esteem is our next issue. Esteeming oneself positively is integral to developing confidence and a strong sense of self-worth. I'm going to read slower. Waitley underscores the significance of self-esteem as it influences individuals' interactions, relationships, and overall approach to life. I think I sound a little bit robotic when I read slowly. But yes, indeed. You know, Losers think they are winners until they encounter winners, right? So having a positive self esteem is a good thing until somebody crushes that. Then really there's no coming back from it, right? And that's where the discipline comes in. When somebody breaks that self esteem, your narcissism has to kick into overdrive, right? Somebody tells you that they've been overseas with 15 passports, you need to get yourself 20 passports, my friend. It's going to be very expensive and you're going to break the bank. But if you're that type of competitive, you'll just move overseas, right? Like if I was that type of competitive, I met a person who had 20 passports, 30 passports full, right? To beat that, I'd have to move overseas and live full time. There, beat that. You're in and out and in and out. I'm there all the time, 24/7. How are you going to beat that? Right? I mean, I would. This is the strategy that I would devise. I don't care what your plan is. There's always a strategy to beat it. The question is, how big a strategy is that going to be? Right? Because flying in and out of the country is one thing, but moving overseas, settling, living, getting a house, getting the furniture, that's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level. And me, I would push for that level. I would push for that level hard. If you were telling me your competition is 20 countries, I'll kill you with just one country. There. I mean, you only visited Paris, I live there. When next time you're in town, look me up. That's how I'm going to kill you. Oh, you like to travel in and out? Okay. Whenever you're in town, look me up. I'll take you somewhere nice. Not those tourist places. I'll take you to a really good place where all the locals go. You're going to love it. I know all the secrets. That's how I'd take you out. I wouldn't even waste my time trying to fill up 20 passports. I'd just hit you with one passport, one stamp, residency, 5 years running. Beat that. Beat that. Right? So, if you have that narcissism in you, that self esteem, you find somebody that's going to be better than you, man, you're going to find that strategy to crush them in an instant. It'll take me an instant to figure out the strategy, maybe a few years to make it work. And the next time we meet, I'm going to be casual about it. I'm going to act like that conversation that you and I had barely affected me. It was ironic. I'll tell you, you know what was ironic? Soon after that, I moved overseas. Imagine that. Oh, you're still here? You still live here? Oh, no, 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 no. I don't live here. I'm visiting. I'm visiting. And when you have the chance to visit me, look me up. That's how I'd kill it. I'd take you out. I would take you out. Egotistically, I'm not the one to compete with egos. I'm not the one to compete with egos. And I'm the type of guy who will save my money, save my money, save my money just so that I can watch you whip out that credit card and go into debt just to try and show off. And at that point, I don't care you got a Lamborghini. I don't care you got 100 Lamborghinis. You got a Lamborghini and debt? What are we talking about? Aren't you better off having no Lamborghini and money than having a Lamborghini and debt? What are we talking about? You see how that works? You see how savings take out anything? You could have a guy earning $1 million a year with no savings. You have 10 grand in savings and you could rub it in his face. You could really do it, man. And I wouldn't, and I'm a complete narcissist, egotistical textbook narcissist. I would not be putting my faith in savings if I didn't think savings would put me above people with debt. You got $1 million of income a year, but you got 100 grand of debt. That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. You got to get those numbers right. You should have 100 grand in savings and no debt if you're making $1 million a year. Because if I'm making $30,000 a year and I have $20,000 of savings over like 5 years, and after 5 years you have no savings, I win. My 20 grand beats yours. And if you think I'm wrong, go ask an economist. Because that debt that you have, even though you're earning a lot, is accruing interest. So that debt is increasing whether you do nothing about it or whether you pay it off or not. Whether you do something about it or not, that debt is increasing. So, as well as the interest on my 10 grand. So while your debt is increasing, my savings are increasing. And don't let currency foreign exchange hit you. People are worried about inflation. The only reason you're worried about inflation is because you don't understand how foreign exchange works. Just you wait until you find out how much a can of Coke costs in Indonesia. 10,000. 10,000. I don't know what the local currency is, but I know I paid 10,000 for a can of Coke. Just you wait until you discover foreign currency exchange. It is gonna blow your mind. You think inflation is a problem? Wait for Forex. Positive self dimensions. A multifaceted understanding of oneself is crucial for holistic development. Recognizing and embracing one's strength, weakness, talent, and limitations facilitates a balanced and grounded perspective, enhancing personal and professional effectiveness. Know thyself. Know thyself is what he's talking about. A multifaceted understanding of oneself. Know thyself. I have been saying it since the first time I came on this platform. Know thyself. Know what you are willing to do to achieve success. And then build a strategy around that. Right? So, if I wanted to be a singer with the voice that I have, I'd be laughed out of the room. Absolutely laughed out of the room. Right? If I wanted to be anything else, I'd probably make a mockery of myself. But I chose the thing that I knew would make me a success economically. And economically, I could change that into a social status. You can always change economic success into social status, even a small economic success. You supplement that with a vasectomy and the fact that you prioritize savings, you can accomplish anything. You really can. And you can leverage your savings, against future debt. So you can say, well, I have a ton of savings. I'll borrow 10 times what the amount of savings I have. So if I have $20,000 in saving, the bank will give me 200 grand because they can see I have the right principle of managing money. And the principle of managing a small amount of money is the same as managing a large amount of money. It's to make it grow. That's the only principle to money. Make the money grow. If your priority is anything other than making money grow, you have not yet come to understand economics. But truly, 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 you must know yourself. You must know where you are effective and where you can make the most amount of money. For me, this platform is not that. This platform is not where I can make the most amount of money. I make the most amount of money at work. I don't expect to make any money from this platform. I'm only here to say one thing to you: freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. And it's worth doing over and over again. Positive self awareness is number one. Self aware individuals possess a heightened sense of their own emotions, thoughts, and behavior. This awareness enables them to navigate various life scenarios with emotional intelligence and responsiveness, contributing to improved interpersonal dynamics and well being. Know thyself? I think he's saying know thyself. Self awareness? Know thyself. Positive self awareness? Know thyself. A heightened sense of their own emotions, thoughts, and behavior. Know thyself. This awareness enables them to navigate various life scenarios with emotional intelligence, responsiveness, contributing to an improved interpersonal dynamics and well being. Know thyself. Know thyself. I think he's saying know thyself. Number 10, positive self projection. Projecting oneself positively in a social and professional areas. In social and professional areas is pivotal for building fruitful relationships and collaborations. I'm going to read slower. Whately encourages readers to present themselves authentically, confidently, and respectfully to make a lasting impression. Yes, I agree completely, especially at work. You don't want to be seen as powerful but unhelpful, as capable but ineffective at work. So you need to project yourself in a way that is quite beneficial. Socially, I could care less how you present yourself to these counterparts or anyone else. What happens outside of work means absolutely nothing unless what you're doing outside of work is going to affect you in work, right? But effectively, you do want to present the best of yourself. This is not outwardly. This is not like to do with like dress code and that kind of thing, although those things play a part. I think in terms of personality and character, you just want to be known as somebody who is effective and hardworking and gets results. And I think that will be helpful to you. I think that will be helpful. If you want to be seen in that way, that might be helpful. But if you want to be seen like as cool and that kind of thing, you'll win with some and you'll fail with most, right? But effectively, you do want people to see you in a way that doesn't make them want to attack you, right? So even if they don't necessarily like you, you just don't want them to attack you, especially at work. Online, I could care less about what these people say and think, right? But in your work environment where you earn money, cash money, real money, paper money, right? what do they call this? Legal tender, suitable for paying taxes and bills. You want to be careful with it, with those people and in that environment. You really do. You need approval from those people and you have to get it, right? Humble yourself. Humble yourself to the almighty dollar. For a moment, I honestly thought there was another slide. Yeah, I'm just used to reading so many slides by now. I'm quite surprised when it's just two simple slides. But yes, this was a very very wonderful list by Dr. Waitley, and I enjoyed reading it very much, and making the contrast between winners and losers, and how losers see themselves as winners, and this makes them so dangerous. Losers are dangerous because they see themselves as winners. And when they encounter a winner, it affects their sense of self to the point of violence. You have to protect yourself. You have to find the ways to protect yourself against people. The best way I think you can protect yourself is simply by not making yourself a target. Is simply by, and I know people will say, well, you put out yourself out there, you can get opportunities and so forth. Yes, that's true. You can also get the business end of a rifle. This is true. This is true based on the image of the man in the opening monologue. This is absolutely true. And you have to ask yourself, what is the risk and what is the reward? What am I putting out there and what am I going to get? Because if he had survived or nothing had happened, then it would have been okay. I would have probably made this video under different circumstances. But here we are. This is the reality that we live in. We live in a world where the losers are more dangerous than the winners. When the losers have a shot at you, but you have no shot at them. It took days for them to find the assassin. With all the technology that we have, days. And even then, they're still not sure. Right? They still got to investigate who else was involved, what else is going on. Right? The other people who were assassinated at different times, some of their killers, they caught the wrong guy. Some of them, they went ahead and charged the wrong guy because the technology wasn't there. Fortunately, we have the technology now in some places around the world where you can find some justice for this kind of thing. But what good is the justice now? What good is the justice if you're not there to see it? What good is the victory if you're not there to enjoy it? I say every day, protect yourself, protect your seed, and protect your solitude. And usually we talk about it in terms of relationships and dating. But there are losers among us, and they're dangerous. And you need to protect yourself from them too. You really need to. And you need to think very hard about how you make strategic moves, especially about your face. There are some people who are going to say, well, my face is already out there. Okay, if your face is not out there, and you think putting your face out there is the thing to do, I'm telling you it's not. Put your message out there and let people decide if the message is true for them. And if the message is successful, then demonstrate your face and say, you know what? I am the man behind the message. I am the voice of the vasectomites. And I feel secure enough in these circumstances to come out and speak publicly and show my face. People are going to say, well, you're hiding your face because you're ashamed of the message. I'm not ashamed of the message. I just don't want to I'm just not willing to risk my life to prove you wrong. That's really what I'm saying. I'm not willing to risk my life to go out there and argue with a counterpart who didn't want to be hearing my points anyway, who didn't want to see my point of view anyway, just for her to trigger somebody else somewhere else who's going to be upset at my response, because my response is all about me, self-care, self-preservation, self-esteem, right? When they hear that, they're not going to respond, and there's going to be somebody somewhere else who's triggered, and I won't be able to anticipate that. And this is the problem: you cannot anticipate who the losers are. So do the right thing. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, and then protect yourself. Protect your seed. Protect your solitude. And stay safe. Stay away from these losers, man. Stay away from these losers. Losers in your family, losers in your neighborhood, losers from your friends, losers you went to school with, losers that you work with. Losers are everywhere. And they are dangerous. And you've been warned. And you've been warned. This is the end of the video and the end of the edification. And again, I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me. I appreciate it, and I always will. Please, if you do like this information, please like it to indicate your approval. I appreciate that too. Simultaneously, please share it with somebody who is concerned, somebody who you know might be a winner, somebody who needs a vasectomy, or just somebody who might be interested in the material. And also, please feel free to leave a comment to remain part of the conversation. And as usual, I will respond to all of them and to as many of them as I can. And before I sign out, again, thank you for the time. Thank you for your attention. I am the Ancient One. I am the Bachelor Supreme. I am the Phantom Menace. I am the master of the deceptive arts. And I plan to remain. I plan to remain and survive all of these losers. And I hope you do too. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.